Today, I am joined by Dinesh D'Souza to go through some of the biggest news stories. Dinesh, thank you for joining me again.
Hey, Stephen, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So much going on in the news. I want to get your thoughts on this. President Trump desperately wants to clean up Portland and Chicago and Memphis, Tennessee. Over the weekend, a judge blocked him from using Oregon's National Guard. Then he tried to call up 300 National Guard from California. Governor Newsom filed an emergency lawsuit trying to block him. Uh, is this the best route that he should be going, or would it possibly be better to just go into red states where he's welcome and set an example on what he could do to clean up the nation?
You know, there is a point of view my wife subscribes to. She's like, why doesn't Trump leave these cities to their own devices? If the Democrats want to burn them down, be our guest, because that's going to be a demonstration project in Democrat malfeasance. This is what they do. And then adding your point in, if Trump were to show that conservative cities, places like Chattanooga, Tennessee, for example, really pleasant, beautiful scenery, not a homeless man in sight. You don't have to look over your shoulder if you're walking in the evening after dinner. You can actually see a visible, palpable difference. That becomes an interesting demonstration project. But I think Trump, being Trump, his strategy is no. I have to override all this opposition. I've got to ride in with the cavalry. I've got to fix these cities over these people's objection. And then the residents of these cities will be like, wow, life is really different in Washington, D.C. We like it this way. So Trump is, in a way, you can almost say going for too much because he's facing more obstruction. But I think in the second term, this is really Trump's modus operandi.
Okay. That's interesting. I had Bill O'Reilly on the show recently, and he was saying that he felt like Trump should demonstrate going into these red areas, but at the same time, he's the president for everyone, but that he might soften the blow or get more support by doing what presidents in the past did, which is like these fireside chats where he lets the American people know, hey, we believe there's 100,000 illegal immigrants. Of those 100,000, so many of them are killers. So many of them have violated children. So many of them have crimes from the past, or they're connected to Tren de Aragua. Do you think better explanation from the White House might garner better acceptance of what he's trying to do?
I think whether or not that is the case, this is not a good diagnosis of the personality of Donald J. Trump. This is something that Reagan could have pulled off a fireside chat. It's very congruent with Reagan's personality, our shucks, and Reagan would have been able to do it. Trump tried a version of it in the first term. Now, he didn't do it with the fireside chat, but his idea was, you know what, I'll bring in mainstream. I'll have a general. Generals do what they're told. If I have John Kelly as chief of staff, he's going to carry out my instructions and basically my vision. And then he discovered that time after time, he's getting stabbed in the back. And there seems to be this coordinated intelligence operation against him, led not just by Democrats, but apparently complicit Republicans. So this is Trump right now. He's like Mel Gibson 20 minutes into The Patriot. He started out, he's like, he's not interested in the war. He's like, leave me alone. I'm a farmer. I've got a family. But after a while, he's like, enough is enough. Now you asked for it. Now you're going to get it. And that's Trump. He's on a rampage. So telling him now to calm down when he's really Spartacus, moving with his sword and his shield, I think is just asking too much. It just is not going to happen, whether we think it's desirable in the abstract or not.
Okay, interesting. I did read over the weekend, he went into Tennessee, which is a red state, but he went into Memphis, that has the highest murder rate in the United States, unfortunately. They've already arrested hundreds of illegal immigrants, Tren de Aragua gang members. They confiscated close to 100 illegal firearms. So, there is an example of him doing something. But as you mentioned, Trump, the more Brandon Johnson and Pritzker of Chicago and Illinois push back, the more he's like, oh yeah, watch me, So I do worry that this, just today, Brandon Johnson of Chicago was saying that they might be ready for civil war. I mean, I hate that they're bringing up this language. I don't want to see American fight American, but we are seeing that on the streets of Portland and Chicago.
Yeah, we're seeing a couple of disturbing things. I mean, the first thing is that Democrats are so dug in with the illegals that they are willing to go down as a party on this issue. Illegals and crime. You'd think, if you brought a group of sort of like focus groups together or analysts, you think the first thing they would tell you, do not appear like you are on the side of crime. Second of all, whatever you think about immigration reform, don't make it sound like you're for the illegals or taking money from American citizens and giving it to illegals. But the Democrats are like, we don't care. This is where we're going. This is our future as a party. We're betting the ranch on this stuff. So that's a bit of a shocker, unto itself. The other thing is that one of the talking points of the Democrats is, well, look at the crime rate in the red states. It's even higher than in the blue states. And the problem with that reasoning is, you just gave an example of it, Memphis. It is a blue city inside of a red state. And that's what's driving up the crime rate. Similarly, in Texas, this terrible crime, for example, in Houston, it's driving up the Texas crime rate. But it's not because Houston is red. Houston is, in fact, blue. If you somehow could subtract these blue cities out of the red states, the whole picture would be completely different.
Yeah, it's interesting you saw that. I saw some banter on CNN, and the person said, well, the red states you're talking about, the crime is mostly in blue cities. And the CNN host literally said, yes, but in this case, I think it's important we focus on the state level. And so like, oh crap, you just embarrassed me on live TV. So speaking of illegals, the government is shut down. The Republicans say we're not giving another dime for illegals to get free health care. Let's listen to what Speaker Johnson had to say, and then we'll go ahead and react to that together.
California loophole. You know what they did in California? Gavin Newsom and the team out in California? They expanded Medicaid to cover all able-bodied illegal alien adults. These men who could be working or whatever. I mean, they're not even citizens, never intended by Congress. They put that on the tab of the taxpayer. And so we reversed it. Chuck Schumer would repeal that. He would repeal those repairs, and this is what it would cost you. Do the math. I won't go through each line, but it's on the website, speaker.gov. You can pull this up. It amounts to $192 billion, $192.8 billion. So almost $200 billion that Chuck Schumer wants to put back in. Also, by the way, while he's repealing our health subtitle, he would also repeal the $50 billion that Republicans put into the bill to support our rural hospitals around the country.
All right. So I saw dozens of Democrats, from Nancy Pelosi to Hakeem Jeffries to Chuck Schumer, saying that under Biden, that the Republicans should just push through a clean resolution, no attachments, no shutting down the government. Yet this is exactly what they did. It's pure hypocrisy. They wanted to attach all of this money for illegals onto a clean resolution and shut down the government. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the Democrats were counting on the fact that shutting down the government has in the past almost always been a political strike against the Republicans and a bit of a political bonanza for the Democrats. So the usual pattern is threats back and forth. The government shuts down. The media blames the Republicans put their tail between their legs and retreat. The shutdown is averted. Republicans give Democrats everything that they want. Now, this has not played out this way, again, because we're dealing with Trump Part 2, because Trump basically thought of something that the Democrats hadn't thought of, which is, all right, if you shut down the government, what you're basically doing is telling me that as the CEO of the company of America, I don't have money to pay these bureaucrats. Well, great. I'm just going to send a lot of them home, not just for the duration of the shutdown, but permanently. I'm going to use this as a mechanism to actually scale back the size of the government. By the way, the size of the government has ballooned tremendously in the past 10, 25, and 40 years. And so it's not as if we can't function with a trimmed or smaller government. And Trump is essentially using this as a kind of, you can almost call it a fat pill to trim back the size of the government. And so I think this is a strategically brilliant move the Democrats hadn't really counted on. So now they've got to figure out ways, and they're doing it now. They're like, how do we reopen the government before they send more people home? This is exactly the kind of political dynamic the Republicans want.
Yeah. Yeah. You could see in their faces when they were like, oh, crap, we just shut down and gave him all kinds of authority. One of the things that is happening during the government shutdown is the FBI and the U.S. Treasury have teamed up to go through, they want to follow the money trail of Antifa. President Trump believes it will lead back to people like George Soros and others. Only time will tell. But let's listen to what Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt had to say about that.
The financial backing of these groups, particularly Antifa, is certainly something the administration is looking into aggressively. And the federal government has never really been mobilized or tasked with doing that. So we're kind of kickstarting that into gear. The FBI is working on it alongside the White House's Homeland Security Task Force. We have our intelligence community looking into this as well. And even the Secretary of Treasury is involved with these matters since they are financial in nature. And we will continue to get to the bottom of who is funding these organizations in this organized anarchy against our country and our government. It's a question the American people have been begging the answer for many years, and we're committed to uncovering it. And when we do, I'm sure you'll be one of the first people to know.
All right. They always say follow the money, right? Your thoughts on labeling Antifa a terrorist organization and now the FBI and the Treasury teaming up to follow the money? Did you know the U.S. life expectancy peaked at 78 years in 2014? The global life expectancy is declining for the first time in 30 years because people are aging faster than ever before. This is most likely due to toxins in the air, chemical in our soil and food, and other external factors that are new to us. What most people don't know is that you can actually fight aging on a cellular level. Scientists discovered that kimchi actually slows the aging process of human cells. In a test tube study, when kimchi was introduced to human cells, it helped to protect them and delay aging on a cellular level. This powerful anti-aging science is something very important, and it comes from taking kimchi. And did you know that you can actually take kimchi in a capsule so you don't have to taste it? That's right. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains, plus antioxidants and enzymes that support digestion, metabolism, and skin health from the inside out. Kimchi One is also a natural microbial, helping your body fight off harmful bacteria, viruses, and even toxins while boosting immunity and energy. And unlike messy, smelly traditional kimchi, this is in an easy to swallow capsule. Best of all, Kimchi One is 100% made in the USA, all natural and non-GMO. It supports your gut, protects your cells, and helps you feel younger every day, which is why I've partnered with Kimchi over at Brightcore Nutrition. Now, today, you can get an exclusive offer by clicking the link below. Just use code Gardner for 25% off your entire order. Or for an even better deal, call my friends at Brightcore right now for 50% off plus free shipping. That's right, up to 50% off plus free shipping. Call them at 888-908-4425.
Well, I think they're going after Antifa kind of like they went after the mafia. The analogy is quite close, really, because the mafia was a criminal organization, but notice that there were all these, it was very decentralized. You have all these families, and they all deny that they're in the mafia. So they claim to be sort of social service organizations. And of course, you remember from The Godfather that the Corleones were in the olive oil business, you know. And so today people are saying about Antifa on the left, they're like, well, Antifa is not a corporation. They don't have a website. They don't have a CEO. They're not a single centralized organization. Yeah, well, neither was the mafia. And by the way, neither is Al-Qaeda or ISIS. They too operate as decentralized cells, the benefit of which is if you bust one of the cells, the other cells remain intact and untouched. So, and yet Antifa is really well funded. And so when people get arrested, suddenly they produce $100,000, $400,000 for bail to get people out. They've got legal representation, not only subsequently, but like on the street while Antifa's throwing bricks. You've got legal guys documenting things and trying to protect the Antifa guys and obscure the cameras from getting proper footage of what's going on. This is a highly well-oiled operation. Now, from my understanding, the funding is very is rooted as it was, by the way, for the mafia and so on. It doesn't go straight. Like Soros doesn't write a check. Soros gives money to the Soros foundations, and they give money to a nonprofit, which gives money to another nonprofit, which gives money to a third nonprofit. And so this could be a fairly elaborate thing to chase down. And I'm not entirely sure who it will lead to, but I'm extremely curious to know the result.
Yeah, I am too. And I trust they've got some of the best forensic accountants that are going to be digging through this. Certainly they'll be able to monitor the flow of money. I want to hear about this new movie you have coming out, the Dragon Prophecy. But before that, what are your thoughts on President Trump's 21-point plan to end the Gaza-Israel war, have Arabic nations come in? I know there's a big meeting happening in Egypt right now about how to accomplish that.
I think it's very ingenious, and I support it completely. I think that with Trump, this guy will come out and say something on the face of it that seems absurd. Gaza should be like a Riviera. People go, what is this guy even talking about? But Trump is a real estate guy. He looks over there and he goes, I just see a lot of rubble. He goes, it's kind of a nice location. I kind of envision buildings and clean streets and people going to work. And high-tech companies and productivity and prosperity. So he's offering a different road, a fork in the road. Now, maybe these people are too twisted. Maybe they're too indoctrinated. Maybe they love blood. Maybe they won't do it. But at least it's on offer. And I think that's the intellectual breakthrough of the Trump plan. Now, there are elements in this plan I look at and I go, from the Israeli point of view, there's some terrible stuff in here. They're talking about, well, Israel has to release the political prisoners. Political prisoners, excuse me, these are like battle-hardened terrorists you're talking about. And a lot of them are going to be out on the street and they're going to be given safe passage. But I think that Israel is just going to swallow and say yes to this, because I think that this is a case where Trump is, again, kind of like the CEO. He's like, I want to fix this. I want this to stop. And he's done it in a way, I think, that even though it's painful for Israel to swallow, it's worth it if you can dismantle the whole administrative structure of Hamas. I also love the idea of bringing in the other Muslim countries, because it makes it clear this is not a battle with Islam. It's a battle with radical Islam. And if the Saudis, the United Arab Emirates, if Bahrain, if Jordan, if all these countries are going to come together, I think this is going to be a very good signal to the world that there is at least a glimpse of peace in a region that has had war far too long.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things he is most proud of is those Abraham Accords. And I think if he can now use those to bring peace to the Middle East, that's a big accomplishment for him. Tell me, in my audience, you're such a great filmmaker. You made Obama's America. You made Vindicating Trump, 2,000 Mules, Police State. Tell me about the Dragon Prophecy.
So this film is a departure from me. My earlier film, Stephen, in one way or another, their topic is the same, the meaning of America. But here I'm looking at things that are happening in the Middle East, in Israel, the war with Hamas, the broader orbit of radical Islam, which stretches from Yemen to the Sudan, Turkey, Iran, and so that wider jihadi culture that we find in the region, the infiltration of that jihadi culture, by the way, into Australia and Canada and Europe and the United States. But not only do we have riveting October 7th footage in this film, we explore not just the political, but I would call it the spiritual and the biblical significance. The film relates the battle between Israel and Hamas to ancient battles depicted in the Bible between the Israelites and their longtime enemy called the Philistines. By the way, the Philistines, Palestine, same name, same word. But it is not just that the name is the same, it is that the tactics of October 7th are eerily present in the Bible. So all of this is brought out, I think, in a manner that even if you're not a religious person, you're going to find it very provocative and intriguing. It enlarges your perspective. And then I do some biblical archaeology that is aimed at authenticating the Bible. To the guy who says to me, yeah, Dinesh, but how do we know that like Pontius Pilate and, Jeremiah, Isaiah, David, King David, how do we know these are real people? How do we know this wasn't written hundreds of years later and all made up? And I'm like, okay, here you are. You're going to see me in the archaeological pit. I'm going to be pulling seals, clay seals and stones and inscriptions out of the ground and coins. And we're going to be able to look at that stuff and make some informed decisions that will demonstrate that, no, you may disagree with the theology of the Bible. You may question the miracles. Be my guest. But I'm affirming the historicity of the Bible as being in a true account of real people and true events.
Okay. Now, did I read that you teamed up with Rabbi Jonathan Cahn to go through some of this information?
Yeah, Cahn wrote the book called The Dragon's Prophecy, and the title refers to a passage in the book of Revelation where the dragon, who represents the devil, goes to war against a woman representing Israel, and the woman is pregnant, representing the child, the Messiah. And so this image is used to develop the idea that there's kind of a world behind the world. After Charlie Kirk's assassination, a lot of people talked about, hey, underneath our political battles is a spiritual battle. This is a spiritual war. And this movie goes, okay, it's a spiritual war, but between who? Who are the combatants? What are they fighting? And what are they fighting for? What are they fighting over? And so there's a kind of startling answer given to this question by Cahn. But look, Jonathan Cahn's audience is basically Bible believers. These are people who accept the infallible authority of the Bible. I recognize that in my audience, I'm going to have a lot of secular people. And so the archaeology is not Jonathan Cahn's work. That's kind of my add-on to his work, where I say, all right, I need to go out there and show you that in the last 25 years, there have been rather astounding findings. Almost as if God, as the world is becoming more secular, has decided to kind of speak back, but not speak back in the Bible language of Revelation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. No, speak back through, an inscription over here and a seal over there. Speak back through the language of science and archaeology itself.
Okay. Wow. That sounds really cool. Okay, so the movie is in theaters on October 8th, and then it goes to streaming. Is that on thedragonsprophecyfilm.com?
That's it. You can get the theater tickets there, and you got to buy them, by the way, at the website. You can't go to the theater. These are theater buyouts, so you buy the ticket on the website, take it with you, present it, go with your friends. I make them for the theater, so if you can possibly see it in the theater, it's the best way to do it. There's just nothing like going with a bunch of like-minded conservatives and Christians, and it's just, it's going to be like a revival. Now, on the other hand, if you want to watch at home, no problem. Starting on the 9th, streaming is available, DVDs. So go to the Dragons, plural, the Dragonsprophecyfilm.com, and you'll get all the details there. You can watch the trailer, and you can buy tickets or sign up for the streaming.
Okay, great. I'll put a direct link so people can find it easily. I look forward to seeing the film. Thanks for coming on and going through the news with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Hey, it's always a pleasure.